Good morning and welcome to our 64th Coffee with the Commissioner event. It's Wednesday morning at 6:30 and there's a lot going on. So first and foremost, I want to welcome my special guests that are joining us this morning. We have County Administrator Wes Marino. You're here this morning. We've got Public Safety Director, not interim, permanent Public Safety Director, Eric Gilmore is here this morning. We've got Baptist Healthcare Executive Vice President Scott Rains is here this morning. And we have President and CEO of West Florida Healthcare, HCA here in Pensacola. We've got Gay Nord. Good morning, Gay. And Dawn. Good morning. Dawn Rudolph from Ascension is Sacred Heart is supposed to be joining us. As soon as she gets here, we'll add her into the call, but it's 6:30 and we got to go. So there's a lot going on, obviously COVID and everything else, and we're going to get to that. But first, we've got a storm brewing and it looks like it might come to the Gulf. So Eric, we're going to do something a little bit different. Just start with you. In looking at the models, it looks like it's going to hug the west coast of Florida. We hope it does that rather than coming here and then make a beeline through the Gulf to Apalachicola. Tell us, is that what you're seeing as well?
That's exactly what we're seeing. But that the forecast track is subject to change. It's still far enough out that we could be impacted. So we'll start watching it very closely today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, if we need to do any protective measures or start pulling some key players into the EOC to have this general discussion about trigger points, we'll start those probably tomorrow with our key partners. But as it stands right now, everything is showing go across through Cuba, through Thursday, Friday, hug the West Coast. And somewhere in the Apalachicola area is where it's showing. But, the cone of uncertainty still has us covered. If it goes in Apalachicola, we'll see, rip currents. We'll see some rain, but we'll be on the west side of it. So that'll be the best thing for us being on the west side of the storm. If that thing shifts to the west, of course, and puts us on the east side, that's the side we don't want to be on. The uncertainty, not only the where landfall will happen, but the biggest uncertainty is how will it intensify? We don't know if it's going to be a tropical storm on landfall, a weak hurricane, or a strong hurricane. So those are things that we're concerned about because as we know from last year with Sally, intensification models are not all that 100% predictable. So the good news with this storm is the spaghetti models. If you watch all the spaghetti models, the tighter those models get, the better projected path that storm will take. So the spaghetti models aren't everywhere like they were with Sally. They're kind of tightening up. So we're getting a better idea of where this thing might make landfall. It's just the intensification. We don't know how strong it will be.
So do we need to go fill the gas cans right now, or what do you think?
Not just yet. I mean, some people's they're going to go get prepped, and that's fine. That's great. Go get prepped. Some people are already prepped. Tomorrow we'll definitely know. It's always good that you should have your radios, your batteries, your non-perishable food items, your water. You should have all that ready to go because we preached that beginning of hurricane season. Just have your kits ready to go. As far as gas goes, I'd hold off just a little bit. We should be okay.
Okay, very, very good. All right, Wes Marino, you're the county administrator. Thank you very much for stepping up to do this. I know we're going to have a committee of the whole on Thursday, tomorrow, and we're going to discuss, so I know that was added that we're going to discuss a permanent, this next steps toward the permanent. I'm quite happy having you there for as long as we can keep you there to gain some stability. I know there's been a lot of turnover, but go ahead and bring us up to speed. What's been happening in the county over the last week or so?
Well, you called the first big thing. That's Eric being our permanent public safety director. And so we're really happy about that. I brag on that everywhere I go here lately. And then this past weekend, we did a back to school Vax and Dash and gift card giveaway. And so between Brownsville and Lincoln Park, we gave away about 400 backpacks to kids for school. And we actually vaccinated about 96 folks, about half young, half middle-aged. And so it was very successful. Commissioner May was in the middle of all that event, as he always is, doing great things there in his district, in his area. And then I wanted to mention something that's a little bit special and involves one of Eric's staff members, Joe Quinn, our fire marshal at the COC, our central office complex, within the last month, has saved the lives of 2 people.
Oh, wow.
I think if you would ask him, and I could tell you, and Eric would tell you, it's always great to know CPR, and it's always great to know the Heimlich maneuver. 2 key vital things that are easy to become familiar with and easy to practice. And those two exercises saved the lives of 2 people at COC.
Wow.
And
That's
so, those kinds of things kind of go unnoticed sometimes, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's a great opportunity to promote the CPR and Heimlich maneuvers. So
I certainly hope that are we gonna do something for him? And
we're preparing a recognition for him.
Fantastic. No, I love to hear that. Under Eric's shop, between EMS and the fire, I mean, they save lives every day, and it's just,
they do, absolutely.
And of course the folks that we have visiting us this morning, that's the business that they're in as well. So great to hear that. We've got dedicated, really fantastic staff in our fire and EMS. We really do. They do a lot of work there, and they don't, like you said, Wes, they don't seek the spotlight. So it's great that you are going to manage them up and really give them some recognition that they deserve. So we certainly do appreciate that. What else is going on in the county?
Well, most recently we came to an agreement with ATU at ECAT regarding wages.
Yes.
And that was a big deal for me. I know the leadership sometimes gets a little boisterous, if you will, but it's not about the leadership of the ATU. It's really not. It's about the workers.
About the drivers.
2 years, the drivers, they've gone 2 years without a pay raise. Not their fault, really. But they worked through a pandemic, highly exposed throughout all the COVID stuff, and then just the daily routine stuff of interacting with the public. And these guys get up and come to work every morning, every night, every weekend, and they hadn't had that pay raise. And so I was determined that we were gonna come to an agreement, and we did, and I'm thankful that we did, and I'm happy for the workers. And we're going to tackle the rest of the CBAs as well. We got fire hanging out there, PBA, and then the operational unit at ATU, and we're making plans right now to come together with those different unions, and we're going to be successful. And we're going to
we appreciate your efforts on that, and of course, so we've closed the loop now with ATU. We finished up with our paramedics and EMTs. I know we're working right now for corrections. Do you think that'll be the next group that we're able to settle?
We're very close with corrections. Yes, I do believe that will be the next group.
And we have a tremendous number of vacancies in corrections. Is that still the case, Wes?
That is still the case. We have about 40 vacancies in corrections.
40?
Yeah, about 40. Now, not all of those are officers.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm speaking to the COVID. We have about 30 to 40 COVID cases that are out in corrections.
Oh.
So
I thought those were the vacancies. I thought that was great news because I thought we had 100 vacancies.
We do have 100 vacancies. I'm speaking to COVID, but not all of those 100 are officers. So, and I know Rich Powell, he had about 25 slated to come into the academy this month. Mm-hmm. And so we are making strides that way. And I think we're close with their wages and being able to recruit and retain. So we should be all right.
Okay, good. Well, appreciate the quick update from both of you all. And without further ado, we got to get to the story at hand. Last month when we did our coffee, it was my aim to make this month's coffee all about fire. And I'm going to be working with Eric very, very closely and Chief Jason Catrambone. And I'm going to bring a 4-point plan. And I wanted to do it today, but at that time, a month ago, I think we were down in the single digits in hospitalizations, and this Delta variant just erupted. So we kind of switched gears a couple of weeks back. I said, I gotta see if I can get the hospital CEOs in so we can talk about this, because this is just incredible. We're at, as of yesterday, now we don't have the numbers yet, but as of yesterday, it shows that we had 344 individuals between our 3 hospitals hospitalized with COVID. The previous worst, I believe, was 291. So we're way above where we were. So I just appreciate each of you and your time. I know you've got a lot going on. And again, I want to recognize those that are here. Gay Nord is the CEO of West Florida Hospital. Don Rudolph joined us a couple minutes late. Thank you, Don, for being here. I know it's early. I hate it, but it's the only time we could all could make it. But Don is the president and CEO of Ascension Sacred Heart here in Pensacola. And of course, Scott Rains is the vice president of Baptist Healthcare in Pensacola. And Scott, I might have your title wrong. Are you the acute care specialist? What is your actual title that I bought?
Yeah, I'm over the hospitals. I'm the president of Baptist Hospitals.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was calling you vice.
Fine.
See, I was giving you a demotion. See how that
works? Well, it's okay. I'm whatever I need to be at any given time.
Well, I appreciate each of you being here, and I've got a list of questions for you. So if it's all right, I'd just like to throw them out, and then we'll take you guys in order. Whoever wants to answer it. We had a committee. We had a board meeting last Thursday, and we had the health department come in, and we had a lot of questions for her, and a lot of the questions she really couldn't answer. And so I'll kind of throw it to you. I think previously we had a dashboard that was very comprehensive. We got data from the state. And we were able to track, the number of cases, the number of ventilators that we had available, the total number of deaths. Sadly, but at least we could kind of get a handle on it. But that seems to be a data that the average citizen is having a hard time getting to. So, in this surge, the deaths that correlate with the hospitalizations, I know there's a couple weeks lag. Are we seeing the same kind of pattern, or have we improved the treatments such that the deaths aren't as high a percentage of the hospitalizations as they were before? And I'll throw that out to whoever can answer it. All right, Scott, you're on the hook.
Okay. They're similar. It doesn't look unlike anything before. We are seeing a younger population infected. So the mortality rate early on didn't look quite that way, but as we get from where we are, let's just characterize the Delta variant being here early in July to this point, we are seeing similar mortality rates. We're seeing a sick population that now is spreading. The average age has been a bit younger, but the acuity has been just what we've seen previously in many, many ways from the standpoint of mortalities.
I really hate to hear that. I was, my follow-on question to that was, were there lessons learned, clinical lessons learned that, and I'm sure there is, and there was, for treating folks, based upon how you treated them last time, kind of lessons learned, best practices that you apply this time around to achieve better patient outcomes?
Yeah, I'll stay mic'd up on this, Commissioner. Yes, there's lessons learned. We're able to treat faster.
Okay.
We're able to diagnose faster. We're quicker with regards to medications. The monoclonal antibody usage is up. We're seeing that here. I know that's true across the region and the system with regards to those that are COVID positive that have an opportunity to get Regeneron, which is readily available. So we're seeing that happen. Treatments inside the walls of the hospital are happening quickly, but the reality is, and I'm just going to go there, this is an unvaccinated issue that we're facing. Just to give you Baptist numbers, and I'll do this very, very quickly and not hog the show here. We are seeing an overwhelming number of folks that are in our hospitals that are unvaccinated. 100% of our ICU patients that are on a vent are unvaccinated. 100% of the mortalities that we have seen since July 1st have been unvaccinated. As we sit here today, 90% of the patients that are in our ICU are unvaccinated. That's not a social media blog. That's not a Fox News or a CNN blog. That's a Baptist fact. And I dare say that my colleagues on the phone could speak to this probably eerily similar with regards to their data. And so, as you, I'm sure, have seen, we were with the mayor fairly recently urging wearing a mask and urging vaccination. And I want to go ahead and get it out there with you this morning and do exactly the same, because those are the facts.
Well, that's just stunning. I guess that's the word that I'll use, because I find there's still people out there that don't trust the vaccine. It's incredible to me. It's amazing. I just don't understand. There's conspiracy theories. They think there's some kind of switch that's going to be hit and the robots inside you. I mean, it's science fiction. I just don't get it. It's like cuckoo clocks going off. It's ridiculous. And those sorts of stats that you're putting out there are the kind of stats that you need to take and put in front of some people and say, really? You think it's robots inside and someone's going to turn a switch and kill you? We had a guy come to our meeting, and he's going door to door trying to get people to have the vaccination. He went through his whole thing, and I just said to him, I said, look, what is the hesitancy in your community? Do you know what he said to me? And of course, the media didn't cover this, but you know what he said to me? He said, well, we're worried about experimentation like Tuskegee Airmen. And also the Nation of Islam has told us, our community, not to get vaccinated. I said, are you kidding me? He stood there and told us that. It's on tape. Of course, the media didn't touch that, but when you've got organizations saying things like that, they're not helping. That's not helpful. So I'm going to just read back because I took notes of what you said. 100% at Baptist Healthcare, 100% of the ICU patients on ventilators, 100% are unvaccinated. Is that correct?
That is correct. Since July 1st. Yes.
Since July 1st. And that's when the second spike really just started getting going, right? So also at Baptist, 100% of the mortality since July 1st, 100% is people that weren't vaccinated. Is that correct?
Hard to believe, but very true. Yes, sir.
And then 90% that are in the ICU are unvaccinated.
That is correct.
And I would have to assume, I'm no scientist, I'm no doctor, but I would have to assume the 10% in the ICU that are vaccinated, perhaps are they partially vaccinated or do they have some tremendous comorbidity? Are they grossly?
Commissioner, I don't know. If I were betting, I would say they have a comorbidity that has them in there that's led them to that place. But I'm not sure about that issue.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm fully vaccinated. My family's fully vaccinated. Most of my friends are. But again, I do know people who, for whatever reason, different reasons, will not get vaccinated. And I hope that those folks are listening.
Well, I just want to, and I should have said this from the beginning. Mark and I both, and I know I can speak for both Don and Gay, we just so appreciate the opportunity to be with you this morning to talk about this, to answer the questions, to bust the myths and tell the truth. So thank you so much for this forum to be able to do it, my friend.
No, man, are you kidding me? I really thank you and all the guests on all the topics that show up. Believe me, it's a lot to ask people to get up and get here at 6:30. It's so no, and this is relevant. I mean, this is just it's hitting home for all of us. My very best friend, a lifelong friend, died of COVID, and I'll be honest, I was offered the vaccine late November, early December, along with some other county staff, and I didn't feel right being first. It's not that I thought there was secret microbots in there. I just didn't, I thought, yeah. When my friend Brad Krager caught this virus, he was a strong guy, worked out, cowboy, tough. He was dead, gone. I came back from California over the Christmas break and I got the vaccine. I'm a believer in science, and it's just heartbreaking to hear those numbers. I mean, I've got chills right now, Scott, from those numbers because we've been killing ourselves putting vaccines out. Brownsville, all the a vaccination event in District 1. We've had them. I mean, they're available now at your hospitals. I mean, we have countries can't even get it. Haiti, I don't even think they vaccinated anyone.
Yeah.
We're begging people to come. We're begging them.
Yeah, and listen, there's breakthrough. There are breakthrough cases. That's absolutely true. But they're less severe. Across the board, they're less severe. Fewer hospitalizations. Those that are hospitalized, obviously, at least in the Baptist arena, aren't in the ICUs, and they, we treat and they go home. So we are seeing some breakthrough. There's no denying that, but it's minuscule by comparison. So again, not to hog the screen, but please wear a mask, vaccinate. Okay, no, that's great. Okay, well, I'm going to go right across the board over to you, Gay. You're up on the right-hand side of the screen. First, I mean, are you in general agreement? Are those numbers and those statistics similar to what you're seeing over there at West Florida?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of similarities. Certainly locally and even nationally, we're seeing, those same statistics. I do want to take a minute to thank my colleagues. This is our third round of this, and obviously much more accentuated. And want to thank all of our healthcare workers and certainly everyone that's having to respond to this right now. And I use the word having to respond to this because it's very unfortunate that we're in this situation. But I do want to thank everyone for all that they're doing. The challenges were unprecedented the last time around, and that has not changed this time.
And I appreciate that, and absolutely. I have a question from online, and they're asking about pediatric cases because they see these big numbers, 344. would you consider breaking down when you give the numbers to the county for us to report? With school starting, there's a lot of uncertainty, whether to wear masks. I know it's not mandated here in Escambia County. However, a lot of parents probably will choose to do so. Will you guys and collectively as hospitals be in a position where you could break down the cases? Because ABC News apparently has reported the highest number of hospitalized children of any state in the nation is right here in Florida. Is that something that y'all could break down for us?
Yeah, I can take that one, Commissioner. We were talking about it offline, I think, at the mayor's press conference, that this is certainly the new distinction in this wave is how it's hitting our pediatric cases. And so at Studer Family Children's, we've quadrupled over cases over a weekend, and then we're still in the single digits. I think with West Florida, and I didn't get your number, Scott, but I think, we're at least over 10 hospitalizations in the community, and we were in single digits easily, observation cases that first wave. I think, I'd like to continue to comment on that. I mean, we were all masked up, the kids were home, they weren't at school, they weren't out playing sports, so really our emergency room visits and our inpatient visits were quite down during the last wave. The kids were, in their little bubbles, if you will. So now they're out and they're amongst each other. And their little petri dishes, everyone knows going back to school, they share things, and, washing hands maybe isn't as complete and as compliant as adults. And so we put that all into the equation. And I think there is a real fear that what we're going to see is the news story is going to be these pediatric cases. And, even in Tampa, there was a report out yesterday of how hard they're getting hit on the east side. And from our standpoint in Northwest Florida, we kind of watch the east. We lagged them by about 10 days. That's one thing we learned. And so as we're seeing them get hit over there in Tampa and some other, higher density populations, we fully expect it to come our way.
Wow. So school starts today, and this is probably maybe a question you don't want to answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. You could always just tell me no. No, I don't like to put people on the spot, but sometimes the questions would be difficult. I have 3 children. All 3 of my kids have graduated from school. I don't know if you all have children. I assume you may, you probably do. If you're a parent and you have an elementary school student that's under 12 years old, so he's not even eligible for the vaccine, are you sending him to school with a mask, or are you even sending him? I'll shoot that one down to Dawn, since she was late today.
Thanks. My youngest is going to be 25. So actually, I've been very thankful. I haven't had to wrestle with those questions. And now they're all vaccinated, thank goodness. So I feel like I did my job as a parent to guilt them into at least the oldest one getting the vaccination. But I would say, I've been reading about it a bit. And so this is Dawn's personal opinion as a mother, and just kind of my opinion of how raising 3 boys. I feel like my children, and I think every parent has to look at their children. I know there's been some evidence of, wearing the mask and the social distancing and their psychological state. My kids would have wanted to go to school. I can't see them, from an educational standpoint being as, ready to learn at home as they are ready to learn, with their teachers and with their peers. So that being the case, I would probably send them to school, and I would mask them up and send them with their hand sanitizers. And depending on their age, I would just be transparent with them to say, this is a very important time, and for you to be safe, just like putting on your safety belt when we get in the car, just like putting on your bike helmet when you get on your bike. This is what I need you to do at school for, you be able to enjoy what you want to do. Now, every child isn't the same, so I wouldn't want to be on Parents Magazine saying this is how Dawn raised her kids, for goodness sake. But that's how I would approach it. And I would end up, making sure that they're protected. I wear a mask every day when I come into the hospital. I would use that same analogy. Even though I'm vaccinated, I still need that extra layer of protection. As Scott said, we do have breakthrough cases. We could still get it. We could still transmit it. And I think it's a step like we kind of follow what the Pope says in the Catholic bishops is an act of charity to say, I'm doing this so that my friends stay safe and my grandma stays safe. And this is something that we need to do at this time. And so that's kind of that would be our view, I think, in the Rudolph household.
No, I appreciate the honesty and the frank response. Gay, would you like to weigh in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Don said. You know, if it were my children going to school, first of all, I think it's important, you know, personally for children to get back into the schools, especially after
Yes.
the longevity of the pandemic. And secondly, masking up is not even a question in my mind. I think it's an absolute.
Very good. Scott, do you have an opinion on that one?
Right with the ladies. Absolutely agree. Absolutely.
Well, that's good because I know, you know, there are probably parents out there who they're not sure what to do, you know, and they know that last year was tough on their kids. And, you know, I spoke to my good friend, Kevin Adams. He's a school board member. He sits in District 1. And, you know, we were talking about, you know, it's still an issue very close to my heart. I spent 10 years on the school board, and, you know, the students really struggled last year statewide. You know, the test went way down. I mean, when you're not in front of a teacher in a classroom, even with technology, it's just too difficult. These students need to be in the classroom. And, you know, I'm thankful in the state of Florida, we're going that direction. But, you know, I worry when I hear what y'all said about the pediatric cases. So I just, you know, and the big worry is on the school buses. You know, if they're not wearing masks and you got 50 kids on a bus, I know what happens on school buses. So we just have to pray and just hope for the best. And this is a good segue for this question. Do any of the three of you believe that there will be a vaccine fully approved for all citizens, even those under 12 years of age? And if so, how quickly will that happen? Scott, we'll start with you.
I think so. Just, you know, speculating with time and the research that's being done, I would say yes to that. When, I'm hesitant to say, Commissioner, that's out of my wheelhouse. My hope is tomorrow, but the reality is probably not. I think we see booster shots happening sooner rather than later. And then what you're talking about, that iteration of the vaccine probably coming soon thereafter, I would say sometime in this upcoming year.
What about you, Gabe? What's your thoughts? Do you think there'll be a vaccine that will cover all citizens, even those under 12, fully approved by the FDA?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think, as Scott mentioned, you know, we'd like to see that sooner rather than later. I know that there is an enormous amount of work being done to, you know, to develop and probably get something FDA approved, hopefully for emergency use like we did, you know, with the first set of vaccines. I would think that we would start to hear a little bit more definitive information about that in the coming weeks, especially with school starting. And to your earlier point, the increase that we're seeing in the pediatric population now that people are out of their homes. So I think it's imperative, and I think that we'll definitely see something coming.
Do you agree with that, Dawn? You see the same sorts of trends?
Yeah, I completely agree with my colleagues. You know, we put our trust and hope in modern science and to protect our community. And so, you know, the fact that they've been able to take technology that's been out there for years and the delivery of a vaccine, and, you know, with, you know, our analogy has been like a this is kind of silly, but like a jelly donut. You know, the donut's been there forever, and delivering the vaccine, we've just taken the cream out and put in raspberry. To make sure and I'm a raspberry fan, maybe I shouldn't use that analogy, but to deliver this new vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella, polio, smallpox, they're all vaccinations, all came out of this incredible American science community that has worked with the world to develop these vaccines. So I have every hope that, and I'm with Scott and Gay tomorrow, you know, because, you know, there are vaccines that don't have booster shots, Jeff. Because everybody got them, you know, the variants didn't continue to mutate in a need for those boosters. So that's our hope and goal, that we, you know, debunk these myths. I think there's a couple other myths out there that I wanted to bring up on your show, not to just to cut in, but I think what we're hearing is, you know, well, I'm childbearing age. You know, I don't want to put that in my body because I might have a baby. And I think, okay, I appreciate that. It's not all kind of wonky political side of things. I think there's some just general education that if people got out of the narrative and really talked to credible, you know, scientists working through, you know, the science of it, they would go, okay, I feel more comfortable. I just wanted to get that answer and feel that I'm making the best decision for myself, which is, you know, the the vaccine and its rare side effects that you may read about is significantly outweighs and is the best protection against COVID-19 over natural immunity, over everything else. So for the childbearing age, our maternal fetal medicine, Dr. Bill Schwartz has been doing town halls. Like most of us, our workforce is childbearing age, and most of them are women in the hospitals. And, they have significant concerns. And what we're finding is when they sit down with the Dr. Maddies, who's our intensivist, our critical care intensivist, who just had a baby, our Dr. Bill Schwartz they're like, okay, I hear you. This is something that I can get a vaccine. It's not a live virus. This is not going to cause infertility. This is something that is the right thing for me right now. And I think those are the type of messages we want to get out door to door, that it is safe, that it is effective, and that we support to the point of mandating it in our healthcare facility, as you know, that we get this done. Yeah.
By the way, I want to segue onto that since you mentioned it. About 6 months ago or so, when I had the three of you on and Mark Faulkner had joined us, I asked a question just expecting a different answer. And the answer that I got when I asked about the percentage of your staff that had been vaccinated, and I was astonished when you said, well, it was about 50%. I said, whoa, wait a minute, what? These are doctors, nurses, hospital. But has that percentage, has that needle moved? I mean, I would assume, I thought it was going to be like 100%. They know the risks, they know everything. But are you still having hesitancy among your staff getting the vaccination?
Do you want me to jump in on that one? I will. I opened the door. I'll walk through it. So what was interesting when you looked at the vaccination rates is we have a dynamic workforce. We have persons that, work as needed, what we call PRN, all the way up to our, physicians. And, when you think about the kind of academic side of things, all the way up to our medical staff. And when we looked at our medical staff and our APPs, and we had a higher percentage of persons that were vaccinated. They were closer to the science. This is their world. Of course, they were the first ones to get vaccinated, and the majority of our clinical staff. Where we saw some struggle was persons that, are healthcare workers because they work in the hospital, but not necessarily at the bedside, not necessarily, gotcha. More in the service areas. And, some of these hesitancies were the same hesitancies when we had the flu shots. Until we mandated the flu shots, they were just like, well, I probably won't get it, that type of thing. And so there wasn't that push to get it done. And so it really did mirror, I think, that initiative with the flu shot. So that's why it's important that we aligned, our new work policy with the flu shots. We're just, as we go through that, we're going to get the COVID vaccination.
And let me play devil's advocate here, because I can just hear the voices because I hear them. They would say, well, Dawn, that's fantastic, but the flu shot, is fully approved and authorized by FDA, whereas this is an experimental on a temporary authorization. Don't you see that distinction? And how can you make someone take an experimental vaccine? To which you would reply,
it's not experimental. I mean, it's an emergency use authorization due to the process of the federal government working it through the FDA. And as I should back up a little bit and say, I hear you. And that's what we've been doing with all of our town halls that we have with our associates is we hear you. What is your hesitancy? Commissioner Bagash, you said it earlier, like, what is your hesitancy? Why are we not moving forward with that? And hearing some of these concerns, childbearing age, natural immunity, they're all legitimate concerns. We just need to talk through it. And once we get through a town hall, what we're seeing is people going, okay, I feel comfortable. But I will tell you this, the most compelling thing that has pushed people for vaccination is the associates that stood up and said, I got COVID. I was in the hospital and I never want that to happen to me again. And I just say, these are your colleagues. So, so I think it is a discussion. I don't think it's, black and white for everyone. There's this gray area of how is this the best choice for me? And so that's the time frame to get people comfortable with it. And I believe that, that last pit of the FDA approval will happen. And so it'll just be a timing with the work policy.
No, that's a great answer. So Gay, over at West Florida, are you running into hesitancy among your staff? I mean, are you guys going to mandate the vaccine for your staff as well?
So we don't currently have a mandate. We obviously are strongly encouraging the vaccine. And I think there's really, I think two aspects of this. One is we have in healthcare in general, we have a group of employees who are very close to this and do see truly every day the impact. So we've seen higher percentages of vaccination inside the hospital with our staff and our physicians than we're seeing in our community, which we know we've started to see some increase in the community, which is fantastic, but nowhere near certainly where it needs to be. So, we do not have 100% vaccination. I think it's also important to note that there are truly people who cannot take the vaccine. Right. There are some contraindications to the vaccine. It's minimal, but there are some. So I think just continuing to encourage people and sharing stories. There are unfortunately so many stories of regret that you are hearing with this wave of the pandemic. I wish I would have had the vaccine. It's heartbreaking. And I think the more that people realize that this truly is real, because it amazes me every day that people still feel like it isn't. But I think the more realness that continues with this pandemic, the more vaccination we will see. So I think we have to continue our efforts around that as well.
Very good. Scott, over at Baptist, are you guys seeing any kind of hesitance among your staff, or are you going to mandate that they get the shot?
Yes, we've issued the requirement. It mirrors our flu shot expectation. There is an opportunity to have a declination, and as a result, you'll be asked to mask and take on the precautions. But I echo what Dawn and Gay have said. At the end of the day, as my colleague said earlier, those folks, especially on the front lines, they are heroes. And we don't use that word lightly, but they're 18 months in, seeing the carnage of this pandemic, and it has created an outpouring of energy and synergy to vaccinate. There are those myths that Don so graciously alluded to and talked about that have to be overcome. There's education that occurs, but we are nudging and expecting our teammates to be vaccinated, and they are doing so. It's just as Don described. Those closer to the science, those closer to the care, are the ones who are sprinting towards the vaccination. We look like we're a microcosm of society. Those further away are a bit more hesitant for all those reasons. And they are now starting to progress to vaccinate. And we're thrilled. And it's free and it's easy, right? May not be an easy decision, but it's free and it's easy to do. If you want a vaccine today, you can get one in an hour somewhere within 10 minutes of wherever you may be.
And that is an amazing testament to our country. There are countries right now, they don't have any authorized, they don't have any supply, they're trying to figure it out. I mean, it is an amazing testament to our country and our ingenuity. We look forward, if I may, the FDA,
that will just be another opportunity to knock down another mental barrier to vaccinate. And that can't happen soon enough either. Appreciate the pace and the hesitancy because of the pace that people question, but we so look forward to that being out of the way as well. Hopefully in the days ahead.
Well, folks are getting this that are not vaccinated. So a lot of them are going to get it, and most of them are going to recover. It's a very high percentage of recovery. We know that because Eric and I pushed to get the recovered number on the dashboard, and we were the only county that did it because the state, for whatever reason, didn't want to report that. But I think that was an important stat to know, and it was like 98% of people who got it recovered. And obviously, if you're over 50, it really changes for you. But under 50 was almost universal. To the folks who are not vaccinated now, the new Delta variant, they get it. They're sick for 2 weeks, but then they get over it. They've got the natural antibodies and immunities. Should those folks get vaccinated, or are they already covered with their natural immunities? I've heard that question, so I'm going to ask the experts on my coffee meeting. And I'll start with you, Dawn, since you were late to the meeting. Question.
Well, I am a healthcare worker. We're very early people. It wasn't like I overslept, so I apologize for that. I didn't want that around there, but I do apologize for being late. I'll say that, we're counseling our people from the data that we understand from scientists about natural immunity, and that your body produces antibodies and T cells. the amount that you get from being COVID positive is still up in the air with the scientists. The asymptomatic people can get COVID, and it's actually a data point of 5% of those don't have any natural immunity if you're asymptomatic. So you're just transmitting it. If you do create some natural immunity, we don't know if that's your best protection. You have it, but the vaccine is ultimately your best protection because it is derived from the spike protein and is created in such a way that your body reacts to it in the highest possible defense for natural immunity. That's frankly why you're sick for about 1 to 3 days after you get the vaccine, because your body is building that immunity. So
I want to ask you about that since you mentioned something that triggered me.
Yeah.
So a lot of people I know, the older they are, when they get the second shot, no problem. First shot, we all had a sore arm. I mean, I felt like someone shot me with a tranquilizer dart in my neck. I mean, I was down for 24 hours. I never get sick. Does that mean I was already exposed to it? What does that mean? Why did I get sick?
I think there's some theories about that. I'm not going to comment that you did get it or not, didn't get it, but there is a variety of, I would say, tolerance to the vaccine and then how your body reacted to as you were building that immunity. I was about 24 hours in, sore arm, headache. But I had friends of mine that actually took to the bed. They were like,
I had to
not going anywhere, and I looked at them and said, oh, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means I had it before, I didn't have it before, because the asymptomatic, COVID was out there. And so, that's a science question that I'm not prepared to answer, but I do know that people have said, and I love what Gay said about the regret piece, is that 1 day of not feeling well, they would be happy to take that 1 day off of work as opposed to the 2 weeks they had to take off work while they were hospitalized with COVID.
That's a very good
because
point.
that was one of the excuses we hear is, well, I don't have time. I don't want to miss a day of work. And so we just it's a risk versus benefit ratio of, well, you're taking a risk that you could be off work for a prolonged period of time and then be dealing with the after effects of if you move into what they're calling long COVID now with the pulmonary and some cardiac. So we're just learning. I'm learning more. I think our medical staff is learning more about the long-term effects. But going back to the original point, the vaccination is your best protection. You may have some natural immunity, but it's not necessarily your best protection against it. And I think, there was some guidance out there waiting, a period of time after you had COVID. I would say that was when the COVID vaccine was in such demand. We were saying, we're getting people that are vaccinated. Right. So if you could wait, a period of time before you signed up for the vaccination, but really, there's really no guidance as far as, 90 days, waiting 90 days after you had COVID to get the vaccine. So
in other words, the minute you're over it, you're good to go.
I think, there's not a barrier to that. It's just guidance. And so with guidance, I always add in, talk to your primary care physician, talk to your medical advisor that knows you the best. When there's guidance, that's who you have to reach out to.
No, that's great. Boy, I really, again, I can't thank you guys enough for your time. Thank you so much. But I want to ask a couple of questions about shortages and supplies and personnel. So we'll start with PPE. Gay, are you guys, I know in the first wave, the PPE, there were shortages and things of this nature. Has the supply chain caught up? Are you guys over at West Florida having any kind of shortages of any PPE or gowns or masks or anything like that?
No, none at all, actually. And even with the last several waves, we really didn't have issues with PPE. And I would say the supply chain has definitely caught up. We've not seen any issues. I think the only issues we have seen are really with, the FedExes and the UPSs and, the different carriers, the national carriers getting supplies to people. It's not that the supplies are not there, but we've got great stock deliberately. And I think all of us would probably tell you the same thing, that we're pulling from, very adequate supply chains that are supporting the care of our patients and our staff.
I saw some head nods, so I'll move on. I'll assume that that's probably a universal truth at the hospitals. We hear about shortages of staff. We hear about outrageous bonuses being paid and extra money to staff if they'll work extra shifts. I mean, I think all around the country, I mean, Wendy's is hiring for $15 an hour to flip burgers. I mean, I cannot imagine what you guys got to pay people. What about your staffing? And we'll start with you, Scott. Is Baptist, are you having difficulty staffing these hard positions? Are you having to be creative?
Yes. There are shortages. We are asking a lot of our team to double down with time. We've seen the industry really change over the last year and a half. Are the shortages such that we're not in a place to be able to render and provide care? No, but have we had to be creative with regards to how we solve for those issues? Absolutely. And you just hit on a few things. Bonuses.
Yes.
The opportunity for staff, if their life permits, to be a traveler and travel in the country and make a different amount of money because they're in a position as an individual to do so. There's a lot of that's going on that we've had to deal with and face, and we're all doing that. We're all in a place to be able to solve for it, but it's yet another challenge that we're up against and hitting it head on.
And Gay, is that about the same situation over at West Florida? Are you guys having to be creative to solve the staffing issues?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, in healthcare, we are good at this to begin with, because this is not, the first time we've dealt with shortages in clinicians over our careers, and it certainly won't be the last time. I think that the biggest challenge in healthcare currently is just the sustainability of the challenges. So, I mean, this typically ebbs and flows in healthcare, but, as you know, we've been at this for, about a year and a half. And so that does take its toll on the nation, on the county, on our hospitals. Really, I don't think anyone's been able to escape that, but it amazes me every day, just the resiliency. You expect to walk the halls in your hospital and have to lift people up. And frankly, they lift me up when I get back to my office. It's just amazing to me how everyone is pulled together, working as a team. Healthcare workers are a very special group of people. And it's very heartwarming to see that. And this is not any different than what we have seen, I think, each time. I think even in our first responders and just EMS and fire and all the people that do, that are in these types of roles are special people, and they're in these roles for a reason. So I think we tend to prevail because of that.
And no, you're absolutely right. It takes a certain kind of person. I cannot imagine. My daughter works in healthcare, and I just cannot imagine. And she takes things in stride and occasionally mentions things to me, and I'm like, I wouldn't be able to eat if I had witnessed such. So, God bless all of you and your staffs and what you all do. It's we all appreciate it. Dawn, I'm going to let you weigh in on that too, though, because I know you're probably not immune to the staffing challenges there at Ascension. So how are you guys over at Ascension Sacred Heart handling the challenges of staffing?
Snack cart.
Wait. Snack cart.
Not to make light of it, but I think one of the best things I've done in 30 years of healthcare operations was approve, the daily snack cart, where we send a little bit of love around. I try to tend to follow it because people are in a better mood when I get there, but I'm right there with Gay, and I apologize for making light of it. I certainly thought Gay articulated the position very, very well. Our healthcare workers are special people. They deserve every type of recognition and acknowledgement of appreciation that we can possibly creatively, which is creativity being one of our values, can do for them. First of all, they did choose to step into this vocation, and they don't leave. There isn't anything like, job abandonment. It's like, I'm taking care of my patient till the next person comes in. And, they have that sense of community with each other and team that is really, amazing. And I think Gay said it so well, and I'm kind of jealous of that, Gay. You just put it right out there as really well. But there are some things that we need to do as leadership to recognize that every member of the team. And if it's a daily, acknowledgement through food, if it's a critical staffing bonus in their paycheck, if it's the therapy dogs we bring through, we
yes,
use them.
I've seen those.
We put in wellness rooms where there's massage chairs, like you can just get away for 15 minutes and meditate and have some sort of, recentering. That's part of our culture. Anything we can do that they've brought forward to make them feel seen, appreciated, valued, we've considered and tried to implement. And we've tried to keep people local and not go off and travel, like Scott mentioned, but there has been some that have went off and traveled and then came back because it was their time to come home, and we welcomed them. And then conversely, we ask for travelers to come here. And so Florida is a hot spot. There is some resources out in the country now that we can ask travelers to come here. And the travelers love coming to Pensacola. I mean, this is a beautiful city to come to. So we welcome them. And then, as Scott said, we asked them to double down. I stood in front of a group yesterday and said, I really need you to take a look at your life, see how you can help prioritize taking care of this community over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully, I'm not standing in front of you in 3 weeks asking you to do that again. So they're working nights when they normally work days. They're working the weekends. They're working embedded areas when they work in procedural areas normally. Whatever we need to do to take care of the complement of patients that are in the house at any given time. And that's where I want to give a shout out to our incident command. Probably just like at West Florida and Baptist, you have a group of leaders that have just been tirelessly looking at every detail to keep this as least disrupting to normalcy as we possibly can. And so I want to give a shout out to that leadership team that is showing up on the weekends every day for their teams and then also for their organization. So
that's amazing. And I hope, as I'm listening to you talking about occasionally bringing in traveling people and how great Pensacola is, along with a snack cart, maybe you take them on a field trip to the beach and say,
absolutely,
how'd you move here and work here permanently?
We try to convert them, don't you, Gay, once they come in? Or Scott, it's
it's amazing. It is amazing how many travelers do end up staying permanently. I'm sure you guys have the same. So that's always awesome to see.
It is. And they want to, and sometimes you can work that out and sometimes you can't work that out. That's absolutely true. Cool. I don't want to make light of this and say it's an opportunity for job creation and economic development, Commissioner, but maybe it is. With that said,
all for it.
I just have to hop in as well and just talk about the appreciation for every healthcare worker in the region. First responder, those guys and gals on the ambulances, to those folks that are registering patients every day, who would have thunk it? And of course, our wonderful nurses, respiratory therapists, phlebotomists, et cetera. They are, again, I use the word hero. They are a hero. And man, they're just, it's 18 months worth too, right? Every day.
It's like not
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, plus another half of that. Think of that. I mean, that's just stunning. And
it's mind blowing.
They're incredible.
I want to take an opportunity. You mentioned the EMS guys. I want to give some props to Eric Gilmore. I get a lot of, there's citizens now that get wired to the radio and they go, oh, there's 3 ambulances holding calls, and they're experts in EMS. And I had one call me, there's 10 holding calls right now. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to pick up the phone right now. And Eric, God bless him, he always answers the phone. Yes, sir. Hey, what's going on? What can I do for you? He answers the phone. And I asked him, I said, hey, I've got someone on me saying we've got 10 calls holding. And he quickly explained how he took care of it. Now, Eric, I want you to share with people exactly how this is called leadership. How did you fix that system? Tell me what you tell the audience what you told me. And I thought that was so impressive, how you fixed that.
So we did have 10 calls holding at one time. First, we do priority dispatching. So we put the higher acuity calls first, put the ambulances on those guys. And then we had administration people in the building here as well. So we started emptying the building out. Anybody?
No, say that again. I think that's awesome. You empty
supervisors
said, get out from behind your desk. You're going to get in a truck and you're going to go run a call, right?
That's it. So we had Medic 100,
love it.
101. They went out, filled the boxes up, went out there, caught the call load back up, and then come back to the office. And that's what we're going to do. That's what we do. We're going to catch the calls. If we're holding calls and we got available people will go get on the boxes and run what they're supposed to. So that's it's ebb and flow.
I love it. And then now you did mention something else, and I know, there's a handoff point between our staff and the hospital staff. And sometimes they get to a point where they can't take anymore. And that's called being put on bypass. And I know that's probably something I was not aware of that. I mean, obviously it's not a world I live in every day, but this job is a great job because I get to learn a lot about a lot of different things. But so at one point last week, there were a couple of the hospitals on bypass. So explain how that works and what happens to our ambulance drivers once that happens.
So when the hospital goes on bypass, they're having to take care of stuff inside the hospital. They acknowledge that they on bypass, which doesn't let us go through. So if Sacred Heart, they go on bypass, at least we go to Sacred Heart, we'll be holding the patient there. We go to the other two facilities to get quicker care. And the hospitals have been very good about notifying us when they're on bypass, when they have a situation or they can't take a patient at that point in time. That way we're not wasting the patient's time and holding the ambulance up at the ER trying to offload the patient. So I appreciate the hospitals being very responsive in that and helping us out, because, we don't want to try to come to your hospital if you can't take the patient and dump on you guys. So it's a give and take relationship. We have very good communication amongst all of us, and we have a very good relationship, and I appreciate that. And the lines of communication are really great, and that prevents us from having to take an unnecessary patient to a hospital they can't receive at that point in time.
Okay, great. And Eric, thank you for your work. I mean, there's a lot going on over there, but you've taken the bull by the horns, and I appreciate it. It's hard to believe how fast an hour goes. So I got to ask a couple quick questions. And again, I want to reiterate my thanks to each of you. Wes, I know you're busy, man. You're sitting there very patiently. I appreciate you being here. And of course, Scott Rains, Gay Norton, Don Rudolph, and Eric Gilmore, thank you for being here. So the question I want to get to, and I want to ask each of you, how does this thing end? Scott Rains, how does this pandemic end? What does that look like, and when does it happen?
Vaccinate. It's our best shot. Take the vaccine. We can minimize this to the point to where it's much less relevant than it is today, Commissioner, and that's through vaccination.
And how long? What's the time frame? You're predicting?
Line up and get the vaccine, and the time frame is short-lived. We were right back to where we were a month ago when you were talking about single digits. I don't think it goes away, right? I don't think it completely goes away, but I think we live in the single digit world if we vaccinate. And there's ample vaccination out there. It's available. Use it up.
Okay.
Use it up, and then we're there.
Gay, what's your assessment? How does this thing end, and when does it happen?
So I couldn't have said it better than Scott. Our only defense currently is the vaccine, and followed by masking, and it's as simple as that.
Vaccine and masking. Dawn, are you in line with them, or you got any other?
Yeah, absolutely. Scott said it well. Get vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, wear your mask in public settings. Look at the next 3 to 4 weeks as a critical time. We feel like next week is going to be even harder for us from a capacity standpoint than last week, just because of what we're watching the predictive models. We could be wrong, but that's what we're planning for. The Delta variant in India and UK lasted anywhere from 45 to 50 days. Now there's a bell curve with that. So we haven't hit our peak yet. Once we hit our peak, then we have a period of time we have to come down off that peak. We certainly all experienced that last January and the July before. So, when you say when's it over, I don't know if I have a date for that. I mean, we're going to have a go into a little bit of recovery, after we've hit our peak, and we'll have to get back into our normal operations. And when we'll start watching the numbers, and as the numbers start to come down, people will have more confidence. Those masks will come off, but stay strong until we get a clear indication that the Delta variant has made its course through this community. We know it's here. We know it's more contagious. We know it's more virulent. So let's just be, as protective as we can for ourselves and our community until we have clear signs that it has moved through.
Oh, perfect. And final question. I promise this will be it, even though I have a list of more, but I'm not going to keep you guys. Will you, the Board of County Commissioners, we are all have this thirst for data. Will the hospitals share with Eric so he can put on on our dashboard just direct, not names or anything we don't want to know, but like directory information related to COVID? And specifically, will you break down the pediatric numbers? People are freaking out. When we get that 344, will you tell us how many of those are under 18? And to break it one step further, not to be morbid, but we want to know how many of these people are dying. Will you give us like the daily death count, for lack of a better term? Not to be gruesome or morbid, but we want to know. Because right now that data is not out there. We got to wait for it to go to the state, then it comes back like a boomerang. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. We want to know locally from our hospitals, like on a weekly basis, how many people are dying of this. Is that information that you guys can share with Eric and we can add to our dashboard? I'll start with you, Scott.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, Eric, you heard what he said. All right, Gay Nord.
Yeah, I think absolutely on the pediatric front. I mean, that is something we're tracking every day. I think the death rate is more complicated, and I'd like to talk offline to my colleagues and come up with a sound methodology around that before we just kind of start to publish numbers. But I'd say generally speaking, we absolutely would support that request.
Thank you. Dawn, does that sound reasonable? Is that a request? Because I know.
Yeah, we're on board. We'll take it offline and see what we can do to get over to Eric. I think we were the ones that pushed to get the hospitalizations back on the dashboard with the
Right.
mayor, with Commissioner Bender.
Yes,
Like, let's get it back out there. People want to know. And so let's just reconstitute it and refresh it. And I would ask then if Eric could take a look of how to pull in the CDC tracker data on vaccinations for Escambia County so that we're tracking
Let's do that.
right along
Yeah.
with
Please.
all this, the outcome of it. And, herd immunity, you can go out there and look at it. It's in Wikipedia. I'm going to tell you that for the first strain, it was more around, off the top of my head, 65, 70% of the community. Now we're up to 80%. I mean, this Delta variant is stronger, as we said, more contagious. So we need more people to get vaccinated to get to that
Right.
community immunity.
80% is where we need to be to
Yeah,
get.
I would push you over to the CDC. They have it there. They have the transmissibility percentages, the row naught of the first strain versus this strain. I mean, all of that data is out there for anyone to Google and take a look at. I would just say
Right.
we need to push it. I think, here's our role models. Those over 65, over 90% for Escambia County have had their first shot. And I think it's pushing 80% have had their full series. So, all that data is on the CDC tracker, and I think it should be out there with these hospitalizations.
Yeah, let's put that. Yeah, Eric, can we please do whatever we can do? Well, we've hit an hour, and again, I want to reiterate. But before I say goodbye to you, I just want to reiterate to each member of the hospitals that are here present. Please express our gratitude from this board of county commissioners, from myself and my peers, the staff. We do appreciate the nurses, the techs, all the people that spend time in those hospitals, the administrators, everyone, even the janitors. We know what you're doing is important, and just please express our gratitude. This community appreciates you. We love you, what you're doing. We know that you care. And so just please let your nurses and doctors and everyone know that, please. And to each of you individually, thank you for taking your time to come on this coffee. And, I can't thank you enough, because this is valuable stuff. People will watch it. People will have questions that they've asked be answered. And so I really appreciate it. So I hope you all keep up the fight. Thank you for what you're doing. And again, I appreciate your time this morning. And
Thank you, Commissioner Wes, Eric. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Dawn,
you.
Gabe,
Thank you.
talk
Yes.
soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
maybe in a couple of months when this thing subsides, we'll have you in, and it'll be more of a happy conversation about how we crushed it.